Welcome to the Phoenix Prosperity Podcast, where wealth meets legacy. Join your host, Tim Fergestad, as we explore the journeys of Phoenix's finest to success and beyond.
Hello, this is Tim Fergestad. Thank you for joining us. I'm very pleased to have Rafael Cortez with me here today. Rafael is a trailblazing real estate mentor, organizational psychologist, and broker based in Phoenix, Arizona. Welcome to the show, Rafael.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me, Tim.
All right, there's more here I have to read because it's great stuff. At just 19, Rafael became one of the youngest firefighters in Yuma County, where he simultaneously ignited his entrepreneurial spirit by building his first business at age 21. Current companies include CEO Pulse Realty, Pulse Capital, and verticals in real estate wholesaling, fix and flip, traditional sales, and an organizational psychology consulting firm. And it goes on. So amazing stuff, great stuff.
Thank you.
How'd that all shape up? Were the companies all sequential based off of experience and need?
Yeah, I mean, they all came from headaches.
Right.
I wish I could sit back and say that, oh, you know what, I was very...
It was a master plan.
Very exactly. It was a master plan that came together all, through sheer wit and smarts, but no, it wasn't. I mean, I've always been kind of shoot from the hip and aim later kind of guy. And
okay. Like get stuff done.
Yeah, exactly. So when you do that, I mean, I think there's pros and cons, right? But going on about things that way, especially entrepreneurship, I mean, you get to learn a lot of things really, really fast, and then you realize that most of the things that you feel like you don't know, and then you got new headaches, right? So yeah. For example, the when I jumped into real estate investments. I knew how to swing a hammer because I started, I used to work construction, through my high school years in college.
Okay.
So that led to, okay, cool, I'm going to flip a house. And then that thought, got me eventually to real estate wholesale, right? And then getting into that world got me eventually into, launching the brokerage. So it's kind of like one thing led to the next.
Okay.
But it was all out of, needs to fulfill, some void that was there.
Okay.
And opportunity, of course, So yeah.
Right. Okay. So yeah, I can totally see that. I can see you're doing the work on the property, and sometimes you realize, this one isn't worth the squeeze. I'll just sell it to somebody else. You start wholesaling. Then you start realizing I'm paying other people all the commissions and everything to sell all these. I might as well start doing that myself.
Yeah, what if I list it? And then
right.
The next thing you know, you're tapped into title companies for, profit shares and all kinds of stuff. So
right. Yeah. Okay. And tell me where the organizational psychology came in.
I just wanted to understand all the mess that I was in the middle of. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna study me and then study business along with it. No, but psychology was always a thing that I had a lot of interest in growing up, right? So I was always reading, the psychology books, and those classes were the ones that captured my attention the most.
Okay.
I started learning about DISC back in 2005, 2006.
Okay. For our listeners, you want to explain the personality profile DISC?
Yeah, exactly. So behavioral profiles, right? And then it was like, it just kind of opened my eyes to understanding, man, we're algorithms, right? The way that we operate, the way that we go about, stress and reacting and being creative or not being creative, like it's all linked to something that we can shape, right? So anyways, it got me into that train of thought, and I started getting more and more into it. So I got into studying psychology after my bachelor's, which I did in business and servant leadership. And at that point, I didn't want to study business anymore. I was running a business, but I figured like I'm just gonna study something that's more intriguing, that I enjoy more than P&Ls and running through all that stuff.
Sure.
Went into psychology, and then while I went through that, I realized that they had this thing called organizational psychology, industrial organizational psychology, which is the psychology of business. So that made just, perfect sense. Again, it's one of those things that happened because I was already in the, the classes.
Right. So you could see the value of it more easily up front.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
It's very insightful that somebody younger wanted to learn more about themselves and figure, right? And the psychology is very important. It wasn't anything I appreciated when I was in high school and such. I I'm an analytical type, right? So I'm a nerd. I like things and the little minutia and details, not social interactions, and understanding that. Until I got older, I started to realize how it's
Yeah.
crazy important for everything.
Well, I mean, to me, one of the things that kind of gave it more importance and relevance was I did get burned out, Tim, when I was around 25, 26 years old, and I launched my first business.
Okay.
Because I launched that at 20, what, 21, 22, and I was still at the firehouse. But when I got to a point where I mean I wasn't excited about going to work. I wasn't excited about, like, I didn't want to do it anymore. I was like, what's going on? This thing is finally, working, but I was mentally drained. So I was doing a lot of things wrong, and I figured out that
Okay.
most of my headaches came from the people side of the business. And I mean, I
Right.
just didn't understand people. And I mean, I feel like I've always had this social awareness, right? Or but understanding it's a whole different thing.
Sure.
And so when I came across, that's the reason I started to look more into it and get more serious about it. um, but the first thing that I had to go through was just understand, okay, how am I processing information? Why do I get stressed? What triggers me, right? What gets me in a good place when I'm in, going down the rabbit hole of something, which I think we all go through, right? As entrepreneurs. So that's kind of one thing that, one of the things that forced me to look more into it. Once I did, I mean, I understood that, oh, wow, you can have self-understanding, and then you can take that across different planes and
And
have better
understanding other
conversations
people.
with your team, with your employees, with your family, with your kids. And
Right.
I don't know, it just gives you a whole different level of understanding and so
Which
many good things.
translates into better communication.
Exactly. Better communication. I think a lot more patience too. I mean, I found it, harder, to get pissed off about something, because I now
Right.
understand where people are coming from as far as
Right.
this is their perspective on this particular thing. So yeah, so there's many things that go hand in hand with just getting better at understanding the communication process, which at the end of the day, it's the point of the whole thing.
Right. 100%. 100%. Okay. I- That's keen insight. That's uh I've heard how important it is, particularly in this day and age of technology and stuff, to have that emotional intelligence, to be able to
Yeah.
really connect with people and find out what motivates them, right? Particularly when you're running teams and stuff like you are.
Yeah. Yeah. And whenever you get into I mean, I got into a spot, for example, especially with my first business, where I was hiring a lot of people really, really fast.
Mhm.
And it just, the noise kept getting louder and louder and louder. And again, when I sat back to do an inventory of, okay, where are my headaches coming from? Why am I hating my life right now when everything's moving forward in the business? It was just, I wasn't hiring the right way. I wasn't really implementing, SOPs and stuff like that the right way. I wasn't fulfilling the roles the right way. So there's a lot of things that go into play. And I mean, essentially what it comes down to when you're talking about organizational psychology is making people and systems, work together, right?
Okay.
In synchrony. And the better you get at that, the less headaches that you have to deal with.
Sure,
And
sure. That's
that's
incredibly
my
valuable.
that's my favorite part. Yeah.
Okay, that was the origin of CEO Pulse.
Yep. Correct.
Okay, okay. And so give us an example of a typical client who needs help. What are they dealing with? And then they reach out to you.
Yeah, yeah. So for that vertical, for the consulting on that side, I mean, basically, I sit down with businesses and the boards, and I mean, we'll look at the nuts and bolts of the business, right? What are the standard operating procedures? What the how to, the process,
Okay,
the pragmatic process of actually manually doing the things, and leaning that kind of stuff out. And I mean that becomes about 30% of the stuff that we dial in and progressively improve. The other side, the bigger portion of it, is on the people side. It's on hiring, right, the right roles. It's, I mean, you mentioned right now, for example, that you have a very analytical a process, and
right.
not a social person, right? So the interesting thing is that, for example, if I were to take you and plug you into a social setting, it's got nothing to do with IQ or intelligence or the ability, right? The skill set to be able to do something. It's got nothing to do with that. So anybody can adapt to a social setting. For example, you can every time you go to a networking meeting, whatnot, right? The interesting thing that happens is that when you understand what your strengths are and you lean into those, it's you get less tired. You have
Right.
so for example, if you go to a social setting, you may be, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean after maybe 3 4 hours you're exhausted. You just want to, step away to, spend 15 minutes in your car. And-
Right. Well, my really introverted friends are that way.
yeah,
They can be the life of the party, but then it's like 2 hours, and then they're done,
need
and
to
then
reset.
they need to go
Need to
go
reset.
go
Yeah,
sit
need
by
to refill the
themselves.
battery. Yeah, so exactly like that kind of stuff, right? And when we're hiring, we'll hire, people for roles that are not necessarily in alignment with their own behavioral strengths, and
Right.
everybody's going to be able to adapt, but eventually, there's exhaustion, right? The more you're adapting, the more exhausted you get at the end of the day, and
Right.
the less sustained that can be, right? So normally, which is pretty interesting, but you have a about a 3 month period where people are adjusting to this setting, even if it's
Okay.
not, they're your highest and best, right, per se.
Mhm.
And then the quality of the work, the engagement starts to drop. We have about 37%, I think last time I checked, was about a 37% engagement rate in the workforce in the US. So out of 100, only 37 are engaged in what they do, what they're doing. Out of 100 employees. I mean, that's wild,
That,
right? But
that's
it's
unfortunate, to be
yeah,
sure.
well, yeah. I mean, think about productivity. How much better things could be, right? For example, people who are engaged, and a lot of that comes back to hiring, right people on the right seats, and then
Yep.
behind that, selecting, right, and understanding how people, process info, and being able to screen for that kind of stuff. So,
Right.
on the
Right.
organizational psychology standpoint, it's a big part of what we do, designing
Right.
the business to be able to support that kind of stuff.
So you don't hire fast as you'd used to. You take a
Mm,
little more
No,
time,
no,
get
I do. Yeah, I do hire fast. I hire fast, but I fire faster. It's, it's just, but it's in the processes, right? So you have to go
right.
through this learning curve. Anytime for example, I kick off a new business and we launch a new strategy like this on any business. I mean, there's going to be a learning curve. We got to figure out what the business needs are, roll that, package that up, and then be able to screen out as best as possible. It's not foolproof, but as best as possible as people are coming in, right? So it is going to get, tricky and messy on the first go arounds, but then you get to this process where you have, I mean, basically you have an influx of staff that comes in, they get onboarded, they get prepared, they get trained, and then the retention, keeps, starts to improve and improve and improve.
Right.
So at the end of the day,
Yep.
that's what we're looking for.
Yep. Yep. Get
Yeah,
the reps in.
yeah, exactly.
So okay, so switching gears a little bit. So Pulse Realty, Pulse Capital, um, you spend, I imagine, a fair amount of your time there.
Yeah.
Uh, what are the what are what's the focus of each of those?
So those two are my real estate businesses. I have in Pulse Capital, we do a lot of real estate wholesaling nationwide, um,
Okay.
which is selling, for example, vested interest in a contract. We go direct to seller. We find
I'm
property.
guessing this is mostly single family.
Yeah, single family, most of it.
Okay.
We do some commercial stuff and whatnot. But I do a lot of real estate wholesaling. I do, fix and flip as well. So that's my investment company. It's my active investment company where we either wholesale or fix and flip, right? And then Pulse Realty is a traditional sales brokerage,
Okay.
based here in Phoenix as well. So yeah, they do.
Okay.
I mean, I have a full team on both of those companies, and I mean they're ran by the teams at this point. I'm very keen on developing SOP, standard operating procedures. It really comes from the fire department background, but I mean anytime you have
Sure.
something that's okay, you have a method behind it, you have accountability, and you have checkpoints, trackers, key performance indicators, and that kind of stuff. I mean, you have the ability to be able to step away from it, right? And I don't feel like we jump into biz ops or into entrepreneurship to become a slave to the business. The idea is to
Right.
to taper back from it, and then the thing is still working, right? So those two are in a pretty healthy space. Most of my time is spent on the coaching side, because I mean, I just enjoy coaching. So
Okay. Tell us a little bit more about that, the coaching side.
I do have, I teach people how to find real estate deals and wholesale them, so sell the contracts, right? So I have a group coaching on that, and then I have one-on-one coaching. It's very systematic when you get to the one-on-one. It's more of a building the business as opposed to showing you how to find the deal. So it's more advanced. I mean, we tackle mindset, we tackle, we tackle, lead generation, that kind of stuff, but it's more of setting up the delegation of the business and scaling, right? So there's different tiers to it, but on the in a nutshell, it's my coaching is really centered around real estate investments, right? And becoming that person that finds the deals from sellers, and then we can sell vested interest. So we get the property in the contract, we'll sell that contract to somebody who's going to flip the property and make the difference.
Okay.
And it's a very interesting strategy. I wish I would have started doing that because it opens up the gates for a lot more in terms of opportunity, in terms of the type of people that gravitate to it, the type of network that gravitates to it. I mean, it's just full of it's full of opportunity there. Once you get into that space, for example, I was able to find people in the commercial real estate, in the digital world, real estate. It's just the power of the network just broadens.
Right.
It's a very interesting field, I think, or vertical.
Okay. And you said you're flipping, I guess, beyond Arizona, kind of nationally, I guess. But how about the coaching? Is that also national?
Yeah, it's national. So I have students all over the place. I have students internationally. They're doing business in
Oh,
Europe
wow. You're global.
from
Nice.
here. Well, they're in Europe doing business here in the States.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean the method, the process is one that you can. I mean, people live on the beach and they're doing deals in the States.
Right.
So it's one of those that you can really deploy if you have just a laptop and a network. It takes elbow grease to get to that point where you're generating leads and deals and locking up contracts and selling the contracts and stuff like that. But it's a very, very lucrative business once you get into it and you start to pick up traction on it. But yeah, that's my students are nationwide mostly. I mean, like I said, I do have some that are international, but it's a process that works throughout the US.
Okay, excellent. Do you have any sort of special sauce or things that because there's a lot of competition in that space, right? Sourcing
Yeah.
deals, a lot of people sending out mailers and cold calls and local flyers walking, right? So anything in particular for our listeners that to tease them with a little
Yeah.
special Cortez
So
method?
I can tell you, for example, the top producing lead generation strategies that we're using right now.
Hmm.
So we've always been, the the cold calling background, right? So I've always had cold calling teams in place since I started doing this. And I mean, that's always been, I mean, we just closed a deal from cold calling leads. We recorded on it, I think it was Thursday. But that deal alone was a $48,000 deal.
Nice.
So it's, stuff like that that's still doable, right? I think there's a stigma against, oh no, you're going to be reaching out to sellers and they're not going to, why would somebody sell? And it's like people have problems that they can't necessarily fix through a traditional sale, right?
Right.
You're talking relocation, you're talking condition, you're talking, the house might be in distress, you're talking arrears on crazy debt and loans and stuff like that. So there's a lot of stuff that plays into it. And cold calling has always been a good method of finding the direct to seller lead. We're doing a lot of pay per click now, so like a lot of
Okay.
Google ads that pop up. I mean, that's working out well. Which is, I mean, it's interesting, right? You start tracking the return on all these avenues for marketing, and we have a 6x return on pay per click. So for every dollar that we put in, we'll take
Right.
about between 5 and 6 back. So it's
Nice.
pretty interesting. But yeah, I mean, those are the two main ones. I mean, we did a lot of door knocking for a long time as well. I mean, that's very efficient or effective. And but it's a task, right, to keep a team together and have that
Sure.
consistency. Again, you fall back on the people factor. So
Okay.
there's ways that I've automated some of that marketing. strain and improve the efficiency of the entire business. I do have a free webinar where I teach how to find your first deal within 30 days. So
Okay, awesome, awesome. Go ahead and tell us that right now. You can remind us at the end of the podcast too. But where can people find that free
um,
webinar?
that webinar is on demand. It's at reiwholesaling.com. It's reiwholesaling.com.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, it's a free webinar. You go in there, you take a look at the process and then literally like walk away with the steps to actually start looking for your
Okay.
first deal to come through. So
Okay. Very cool. Excellent. Excellent.
um,
So what are some of the biggest challenges you've had to overcome? And let's stick with the real estate space because you have so
uh,
many different arms and to
yeah,
the
yeah.
Cortez
So
empire.
are you talking about the well, I wouldn't say empire, but definitely work in progress for
How
sure.
many companies do you have or businesses?
Three. So
Okay.
um but I mean, I guess biggest hurdles on if you're talking about, for example, transaction deals or what are we?
Well, no, it could be, just growing your businesses, right?
Oh, okay.
Or it could be
Yeah, I mean, I think the some of the biggest challenges really, I mean, they all revolve around clarity. Okay, you have an idea. This is a great idea, but then
right.
developing the clarity behind it to understand where you're going to take it, what's that next step look like, right? How are you going to take action? Because I feel like it's the lack of clarity is one of the things that creates analysis paralysis, right? So the less clear
Yep.
you are on that next step, the longer you're going to take to take that step. And when that happens, um, unfortunately, a lot of times the eagerness to do things just fizzles away, right? So analysis paralysis is going to kill your vibe, is going to kill your mood, is going to kill your speed of implementation, and that links back to clarity. And that was, I mean, I think perhaps if not my biggest challenge, I mean, definitely one of the top three.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is understanding, okay, where am I going to take the business, right? What's my highest and best? I mean, this is actually one question that gives me clarity on a regular basis. Every day when I mean, I have it written in my notebook. I open up the thing, is the first thing on there. It's what's my highest and best. I'm like that crazy person that's always reminding me myself of what's my highest and best, and where should my actions and my intentions and efforts be placed, right at this point in time,
Right.
right
That's
now.
awesome. That's a reminder I think we could all use regularly is to be more intentional, right? Helps keep us intentional with our time and effort.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I think it forces you to think in a clearer way too, right? It forces you to think it's like, okay, cool. I mean, I could be stacking paper clips, or I could be focusing on this one thing that may be just one thing for the day, but it's going to move the needle, right? Whether
Yep.
that's, I don't know, pursuing. I mean, for example, last week, my one, I can't remember which day, it might have been Wednesday or something. No, probably Tuesday. But I mean, I spent 4 hours on the phone trying to get one deal through the finish line.
Okay.
During those 4 hours, it's not something that I do normally. I don't work on transaction coordination anymore. I have a transaction coordinator in the team.
Right.
My attorneys usually handle paperwork and anything that comes across that way. But this was an out of the norm type of thing, right? My team hadn't dealt with it in the past, and I can do a
Right.
bad job of delegating and see if they figure it out, and then we lose a big massive deal, right?
Right.
Or I can realize, like, listen, my highest and best for the next 4 hours is to sit, down and take this phone and just hammer things out until this is pushed over, right?
Right.
So, I mean, that was the thing that I focused on. It felt like something that I shouldn't be doing,
Hmm.
but again, the experience level of the team wasn't there. They just hadn't dealt with something like this in the past.
Right.
Um, and so, I mean, that to me, for example, it's just one reminder, right? Look at your highest and best, and it may be something different, right? Tomorrow's highest and best may be
Right.
something,
It'll change. Right.
yeah. And but I think it comes down to the level of clarity that you have in the business. Where are you headed? All right. If you have a revenue goal, I mean, have that be the thing that guides, the clarity of it. Another thing that I've done is setting up themes for the quarters.
Oh, okay.
That one's pretty interesting. I don't know if you ever done that in the business or not,
Yes.
but
Yes.
you set up a theme
There's
where
sort of seasons for different businesses, right?
yeah, yeah, exactly. And it's like, okay, these 3 months we're gonna focus on dialing in the dispositions process. Okay, you're still doing everything else. You don't stop doing everything else, but the intentionality of the team goes back into, okay, how can we improve dispo? How can we improve dispo? Right. So that becomes a theme for that, and then you knock that out, and then the next quarter you have some other theme, but it starts to create clarity, and clarity is one of those things that doesn't necessarily hit you, with just one sitting, right? You may have to work on your path for clarity for the entire year, and figure something out that way. So
Right.
yeah.
Right. 100%. I just made a little social media post, a graphic that was talking about clarity through action, right? It's
There you go.
you don't always know. It's like a foggy graphic, right? You got to go into it to figure to sometimes figure it out.
Yeah.
Okay. So I like to ask people about their company goals and personal goals. You can do both if you like. If you
I'm sorry, say that again. I didn't catch that first part.
biggest goals for your company and or personally.
Oh, I mean, I think, well, I like to have right now, I'm looking at a 20% year-over-year growth, which is it's
Nice.
sustainable. And I mean, we're on track for that. So when it comes to just pragmatic goals, I mean, I'm looking at a steady cadence of growth. I don't like spikes. Every time you spike, shit breaks, for lack of a better term. But
Right. Right. Yep.
but every time you have a spike or an influx of a lot of things, right? It's kind of like changing the engine in a car when you haven't changed you didn't update the transmission, right? You put
Right.
this beast of an engine and your transmission is going to be subpar to that.
Right.
But when you have controlled growth, it's I mean, it's a lot easier to keep everything in play. And I mean, that's at 20%, for example, 25% growth year over year. It's a good cadence, for me,
Okay.
as far as income, as far as revenue, as far as headaches. I'm very, very conscientious about the amount and the types of headaches that I sign up for. I mean, I think the less I have to do in the business at this point, the better for me. Not because I don't enjoy it, but it's because I can focus my highest and best on stuff that moves the needle, and then empower the team that goes out and executes, right? So
Right.
so when it comes to goals, I mean, 20% year over year growth, and I mean, it's a very healthy thing for us. And I mean, it's taken a long time to get to that point. I don't feel like I used to have, Tim, this is pretty interesting, but I used to have this need, right? If I hit a benchmark, or if I hit a goal, I had like, I would not stop and smell the roses or celebrate it. I was already
Right.
thinking about the next pit stop, right?
Yep.
I did that for so many years. And now people ask me, it's like, what are you excited about right now? What are your real big, massive goals right now? It's like, you know what? Just, you know, I think I'm in a pretty good lane. It's just more of the same, just better.
Okay. Right.
So it's a pretty steady route right now for me. Yeah.
That's good because you can burn out if you don't stop and smell the roses, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I like to play a lot too, so it's not all, just business, 24/7. So,
Okay.
I mean, I
Excellent.
think
So
that's part of prosperity, right?
it is. It is. That's one of the with success comes more demands on your time and balancing that, right? Over time is the challenge is one of the challenges associated with it and not losing yourself and losing your why. So many people
Yeah.
have a big exit or they finally reach something else and they realize they've lost their purpose and meaning.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's interesting. I mean, the breakdown of that is a very interesting dynamic, I think. I mean, I've seen it where people reach this pinnacle, right,
Mhm.
of where they wanted to get to, and all of a sudden you're lost again. So
Right.
it's the difference between having an extrinsic motivator versus an intrinsic motivator, something from the outside that drives you. For example, a financial goal, a car
Right.
you want to buy, a house, whatever, a boat, right? Once you get that, it's like, oh, I gotta come up with something else to keep my motivation up.
Yep.
But when you find purpose, when you find at least the purpose that's gonna play well for you at this point in life. I mean, we're dynamic
Right.
beings. Your
Yep.
purpose is gonna change in 5 years. It's gonna change in 3 years, maybe less, maybe more. Right? Mine, so is mine. But when we find that, and it's an interior drive, it doesn't. You know, when you come across people who are always excited and they just want to keep pushing, moving forward, and they're like thrilled to go knock out the day and do all this. They're being driven by something that's internal. It's not a goal. It's not just a goalpost.
Right.
It's
Right.
something, usually something intrinsic, right? Something that motivates. Mine, for example, is empowering entrepreneurship. Everything I do, 24/7, it points back to empowering entrepreneurship. When it comes to the conversations with my kids, this podcast, it's about empowering somebody else
Awesome.
on that path of entrepreneurship. So
Okay.
yeah, I mean, you hit it on the head with purpose.
Okay, Rafael, great stuff. Great answer. So on that note, if people want to connect with you and they want to learn from you and come along for the ride, how can they connect with you? Where can they learn more?
I'm pretty active on social. I mean, Instagram is probably the easiest way to get a hold of me. I do look at all my messages. It's me responding. And that's Rafael Cortez, CEO, Rafael, Cortez, CEO. So Rafael Cortez, CEO. I do have a YouTube channel, same thing, Rafael Cortez, CEO, where I post a lot of content on mindset, on business, on strategy.
Okay.
And then if you guys want to tap into or learn about real estate wholesaling and the blueprint that you need to kick it all off, go to reiwholesaling.com.
Okay, that's the webinar.
Yep.
All right, excellent. All right. Well, everybody, thank you very much for watching and listening. Thank you very much, Rafael Cortez, for joining me today. We appreciate you sharing your story and insights into success and impact and training in real estate here in Phoenix.
Thank you, Tim. It's been a pleasure.
Inspired by our guests? Visit phoenixprosperitypodcast.com/guest and join us on the show and share your success story with Tim. The spotlight awaits.